garment industry because they raised the wages.
Why did Saipan lose their garment? Because they raised the wages, you think?
Well, you tell us.
I can tell you, WTO. The reason Saipan lost their thing is because what they did is they cut down the trade barriers. There used to be a barrier on t-shirts imported to the United States and said we could only import X amount from China. And with those trade barriers, it allowed Saipan to have an advantage because they could import to the United States without worrying about those caps. As soon as we had a trade agreement through the WTO process that allowed us to raise up the tariffs or raise up the quota, and so now China could import as much as they want in the United States. That's why they went out of business, because you can't compete with Chinese workers that are making $1 a day.
Wait. If I could, Past President and Carl, but at the end, I'd like a rebuttal from Scott Sibley. At the end, I'd like you to defend yourself and talk about the good employees that you got in this hotel, because I am a fan. All right, last two questions.
Yes.
Good, make them short.
Senator, well, firstly, I'd like to dispute a couple of things. Outsourcing. We wouldn't have any power functioning today if we had, if Carl Gutierrez hadn't privatized the power plants that we've got. So I take exception with what you said. But beyond that, can you look at this from the other side? You're the one, we're the ones who are supposed to produce the income for this economy, and you're the one who wants to spend it. If you want to just come down to, look at it that way. You've made all these assumptions about what income we can produce, and you really haven't involved this end of the room in that dialogue. I'm curious, what percent of return on investment do you think an owner of a business who risks everything he's got is entitled to make?
That's a good question, and it's a really good question. Now, what percent is relative speaking? What we need to do is actually look at wealth distribution in any economy. And we know, history tells us, whenever you have a very large split in the wealth distribution, your economy is bound to crumble. It happened in 1928, and it just happened today. You have to, in a consumer-based economy, workers have to make enough money to participate in the economy. That's how economy functions. Now, I understand if one business says, if I go in, let's say you're in the custodial business, right? And all of a sudden, you want to pay your employees more. You feel bad, and you go, look, these guys aren't feeding their families. They're living in a hovel. They're driving a 1984 Sentra. I would like to pay them more. But you know, if you pay them more, you're going to lose all your contracts because the other company is doing the same thing, right? They'll undercut you because they'll pay their people less. Well, that's why you have to lift everybody at one time, so that everybody can compete on a fair level. You're always going to make profit, or you wouldn't be in business. It's one of those things that are going to happen. But when you raise the standard of living, now one of the big things that people think is that if we raise the wages, what's going to happen is we're going to have massive inflation. And that's another scare tactic people use. Not true. And we can prove it on Guam. History shows us it is not true. 98% of everything that we use and consume on this island are produced off our island and have very little to do with the wages here. Now, there will be some inflation, especially in service-based industries that are high, but it's not going to have anything to do with it and make people's standard of living less compared to raising their wages will do. Yes.
84 centers are still running. Senator, my Econ 101 books tell me that all the taxes to the government, all the revenue to the government comes from taxes, and all the taxes come from profits. Because if no profits, there's no tax, you don't pay taxes on losses, and you don't employ people if you're losing money. So does Guam have a plan for increasing profits so that they can increase revenue to the government?
That's a good question. No.
Another one.
Guam isn't in the business, and government isn't in the business of telling you how to run your business in a lot of ways and how to increase profits. But that's part of the thing that you guys call is like free market and you're very keen on. But that being said, when you have a good public structure, it helps everybody run a better business. When you have good schools for your kids and we have a good educational system that produces good educated workers, that helps you run a better business. It helps you maximize your profit because then maybe you can hire one person to do a job as opposed to 3. It's very important that way. I know it's easy to point out and like to say, well, the government blah, 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 and private industry makes all the money and so there should be no government. And that's easy to say unless maybe you're a car dealer and you remember in 1992 where GovGuam employees were buying new cars every year or every 2 years, as opposed to today, and I'll bet you your sales have been struggling the last few years. When people make money, GovGuam employees who are the largest employers on island, and every employee, what do? They go and shop and they buy cars, they buy Blackberries, they spend money in our economy so your businesses can make a profit. Thank you very much.
I pay your salary.
At least one of them.
Part of it.
Where's that made? Where's that made?
This is made in China, but it's brought in by CTSI and some other shipping companies, so I have to pay for a trucker to get it to my office.
Then we can afford it.
On behalf of our club, remember when you sign your checks and buy your car from Van, to sign that with a Rotary check.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.